My name is Kisha Hodges. I am the survivor of childhood abuse and trauma. Growing up, my grandmother, my mother's mother, she was the sweetest lady. She taught us everything. That was when we had the most stability, was with my grandmother. My mother and her siblings were running from the FBI, so we ended up going from state to state. The FBI would catch up with us. And in the process of that, my father found out that we were running from the FBI. He thought it would be a good idea once we came back to Ohio to take me away from my mother. My mother and her siblings were running away from the FBI. My uncle had some type of ID machine, the oldest child, and they would steal people checks and cash the checks for years before the FBI found out what they were doing. And they knew all of them. They knew all of them by name, and this is why they grabbed all the kids and took us from state to state, and the FBI would catch up with us about a year later. My uncle created a machine that took identifications, which made the identification card. And so once my mother and all of her other siblings would steal the checks, they would take the check to him and he would make the ID with the name that's on the check. So it makes it easier for them to cash the check. They've done that for years. I really did not get to know my father growing up. He would come by my grandmother's house. We've seen him a couple of times. I knew the face was father. The last time the FBI came to get us, I was 9. We went to Ohio. We stayed with my aunt for maybe 30 days or so. Then we moved in with my uncle. And all of a sudden, my father pulls up in this black Cadillac looking car or something. And he asked my mother, could he take me and my sister for the weekend? And my mother said yes. He took us to the lady house that he had the 6 children with. We stayed with her a while. But my baby sister was lighter than me. My father showed her a whole lot more love and attention than he did me. And the lady hit my baby sister. Then the next thing you know, again, we're being moved, transferred to another school. We went to another lady's house that he was dealing with and her children. We stayed with them. When I was 9 years old, my father kidnapped me and my baby sister from my mom. I didn't have no control over what was going on, but I knew something was going on because I know 2 days we was going back home. Now we're here and I'm in a new school and I'm coming to this lady's house every day. I'm catching the bus from her house, going to school, and the bus is dropping me off at her house, and I'm going back in that house. Now, is this my new mother? And how did this happen? Because nobody sat us down and told us that we were never going back to my mother. Not even him. He was never there. He was still a street man. He's just running the streets. You just took your children that you made on this woman and dropped us off to this woman. She could have killed both of us. My father never said that we wasn't going back. And I didn't know that my mother had been looking for us. I only knew that we was never going back when he took us out of the first lady house and moved us into the second lady's house. And my baby sister asked him, when will I be going home? And he said, you're not going home. That's the only way we knew that we was going to stay with him. I remember living in that house. My body was going through some changes. I was throwing up blood. I was shaking a lot. My nerves was shot. I would bite all of my nails. My eyes would always blink. My body would always shake. And when he would come in there once a week to say hello, I'm like, I'm sick. I need to go to the hospital. I'm throwing up blood and everything. He would look at me and scream and holler, I'm not going to a hospital. Sit down and shut up. I believe I was missing my mother. I believe I wanted to go back to my grandmother's house. Something was going on. All of a sudden, I'm throwing up blood. I'm shaking all the time. I'm biting all my nails. My nerves are shot. I don't want to be here. Why did you take us? I really would just like to say I'm grateful that he had women, because he was horrible. The first lady, I bust my head open outside of her house. She had to rush me to the hospital. She sat there while they stitched up my head. He never did come. 2-3 months later, I still hadn't seen him. I wanted to go home to my mother. He was a horrible parent. Like, you had no parenting skills. You could have left me where I was. I was 10 years old. We were still staying at my father's first girlfriend house. And it's concrete, it's projects. And I was swinging and I flipped back and bust my head wide open. She had to call 911. They rushed me to the hospital. She sat there with me while they stitched me up. I don't even know if she got a chance to speak with him. All I know is he never showed up. He did not. I didn't see him 3-4 months. I still didn't see him at all. So my father never showed up at the hospital. I'm not sure if she was able to reach him, my father, on the phone. It was a horrible feeling because I don't have my mother already. You're the person who took me from my mother. And now you're not showing up as my parent right now. And you have to sign paperwork for people to work on your children at the hospital. I have no idea what name my father's girlfriend put on that paperwork, but they needed to stitch me up really fast. And it got done. My father never showed up. Not even to the house once we got back to the house. I really felt very abandoned. My mother wasn't there. I didn't know if she was fighting for me. I didn't know if she just gave up and said he can have me. My stepmother, she did the best she could do with children that was just dropped off to her. And I was sad and I was crying all the time. This is why I was so sick at that young age. Well, no possible way I should have been that sick at that young age. You're supposed to be running around having fun, but I'm stressed out trying to figure out how I'm going to get back home. When I was still 10, he moved us out of his first girlfriend's house and moved us into his second girlfriend's house at that age. She had 2 daughters, so then it was 4 girls there in that house. The very first day, I will never forget walking through the door, and I sat at the table shaking like a leaf, again, because this new to me. And here, the ladies is sitting there, my stepsisters. But I didn't know them, and they didn't know me. My stepmother, sister, looked me in my face, and she says, "Your father is a rapist." For some reason, at 10, I knew what a rapist was, or either I knew it didn't sound right, or he was bad. Something was bad happening in that house. It was my stepmother's baby sister who came and looked at me and said, "Your father is a rapist." We're at a new school, and I guess I was always too smart for my own good. And one day, me and my stepsister was sitting on the couch. My father asked her to come to the back room with him. Instantly, I felt uneasy. I just felt bad. And she was screaming. He comes out the room and tell me to never repeat anything that goes on in this house. Well, since he told me not to repeat it, I told everybody who would listen. And so he beat me really, really bad for telling everybody what happened. So what I thought was happening when he was in the back room with her, I felt like whatever my stepmother, baby sister was talking about, she said, "Your father's a rapist." This rapist thing must be happening right now, because we were sitting on the couch minding our own business, very happy children for whatever the situation was. And she goes back here, and now all of a sudden she's screaming and she's not happy. So what are you doing to her? So when she came out the room, the first time she never mentioned anything to me. She just looked like she was just violated in some form. She didn't explain anything to me till maybe the 3rd time. Her clothes wasn't messed up. She was looking like she was crying and screaming. She was walking different. Walking scared, a scared walk. Just this ashamed look on her face. The look on her face made me want to fight. I wanted to fight. I wanted to kill him. For her, for whatever happened, I wanted to kill him at that moment. We moved it to another house. Still the same 4 girls. One day he said, "You all need to come in here. Sit down in front of the TV. I'm going to teach you all about sex. It's time to know about sex." I'm like 12 years old. I don't think I want to know about sex. But anyway, you can't beat them. So he put us all in front of the TV. He put this X-rated movie on it. You're watching sperm go into a lady's mouth. And I said, "I got to use the bathroom." And I just kept saying, "I have to use the bathroom." I would stay in the bathroom too long. So he beat me for that, because he knew that I was lying when I said I want to use the bathroom instead of watching people have sex at 12 years old. Yeah, he really beat me. He would make me lay across a chair for absolutely nothing. I don't think that man liked me. And then I talked too much. I told everything that was going on in the house, to whoever would listen. He would line us up like soldiers after he put us in the tub, after he washed us up himself. Line us up like soldiers put his finger up inside of us, smell it and say, "You're not clean enough. Get back in the tub." My stepmother made pancakes. I wanted another pancake. And he got up out the bed and he was angry because I wanted another pancake. This is my first beating. And he made about 7 pancakes. I was full. I just wanted one more pancake. So he told me if I did not eat all 7, he would beat me. There's no possible way I could have ate 7 pancakes after eating breakfast. I couldn't eat it. And so he beat me with an extension cord because I would not eat all the pancakes. I was getting more angrier as the years went by. I just was trying to figure out how to kill somebody and get away with it. At 12 years old, 13, baby, I was ready to kill. I'm like, this the night. I would sit up some nights and be like, this the night I'm going to go down there and cut his heart out because you're still raping my sister. So me, my baby sister, and the sister that was a year older than me, we were laying there. And we always had the same bed. So he would come down to the room in the middle of the night, wake me and my sister up, send us to the bathroom, send us somewhere so he can freaking do whatever it is he wanted to do to that sister while we were in the back in the bathroom. Then that's when she was telling me everything. She was just tired of it. Now she's gotten to the point where one day, I'll never forget this day for the rest of my life. We sat down at the table and we had a family discussion because my sister said, "I'm going to tell my mother." And she did. She says, "He's been raping us for years." I'll never forget it because his response to that was, "They don't say anything when I pay them money." I'll never forget that conversation. My stepmother just looked and she says, "When does all of this go on?" And I said, "When you're asleep and they're children, sir. They're scared. So they're scared and then you offer money. What are they supposed to do?" When we were sitting at that table and his response to them saying he'd been raping us for years, Mom. And he says, "Well, they don't tell on me when I pay them." I guess at some point the older they got, he started handing them money after raping them. So when he started selling, I was about 12 and a half. Then he started using. So my beatings got worse because he was, and everything that I did, he thought I was being a bad little girl. So he beat me every chance he got because he was awful. So by this time, I'm like the 7th, 8th grade at this second house that we moved into. I was an honor student, always very smart, too smart for my own good. But I fought every day. I fought every day because I needed to put that anger somewhere because I couldn't use it in the house. I couldn't kill him like I wanted to, but I wanted to kill something because I fought every day. Yeah, honor roll all the time, but I fought every day. So what that means, the school is going to call him. He's going to beat me again because I'm fighting. When you're the reason why I'm fighting every day. Because I want to hurt somebody, because I want to hurt you and I can't. I wasn't a happy child. I wasn't. Right. Yes. And I had one teacher that I called her when I became an adult and I talked to her about everything. She says, "Why didn't you tell me? We all just thought you were such an evil little child." I'm like, I saw my sister didn't get any help with the school. I didn't think the school was going to help me. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to tell jokes at that young age. I wanted people to want to be around me, but they didn't want to be around me because they knew that if they said one wrong thing, I would attack them. And I'm saying all the time, why isn't anybody looking, saying something has to be happening at home with this child for her to be this angry? Nobody said anything. Nobody picked up on it. The last beating, I will never forget this day. Me and the older sister that's over me, it was always us two, getting in the most trouble. We were going to the store. On the way to the store, my friend lived on the next street. She was standing on the top porch and she said, "You want a donut?" We was like, "Yeah." We went up, got a donut, came back down, eating the donut, walked to the store. We come out of her door. Who's driving down the street other than my father? He says, "I'm going to beat y'all when I get y'all home because anything could happen to you. I could worry about you. You could be kidnapped. You could be this. You could be that." All this old crazy father half a moment. You the damn kidnapper. You the worst. So if somebody kidnapped me right now, I'd be good and happy to go with them. But they're getting me the hell away from you, sir. We hopped in the car because he made us all the way to the store. We're whispering back and forth to each other, and I'm like, I'm leaving. She's like, we can't just leave. I said, let's just leave now. Like, just leave the store. Don't get back in the car. She's like, no, we got to go home. On the way home, I'm thinking, this is my last day. This is my last beating. I mean, she goes in first. Him and my stepmother take her in the back first. My stepmother never hit me, but he was allowed to beat her children. And she was screaming and hollering. They both beating her. One had a belt, one had a stitching cord. Just beating her. And she says, I hear her scream, this is child abuse. And they laugh. And I'm next. So he takes me to the back. Now I'm 13. I'm angry. I don't care about nothing but killing him. So we're back there fighting like cats and dogs. So after it was over, I went in there and I sat down with my two sisters. I said, I'm leaving in the morning. I'm going to find my mother. And I'm finna shut this all the way down. They said, okay. So they knew my plan. Got up the next morning. My stepmother had bought me a red dress. I took the red dress. I put it in the bag. I walked right past my school. I knew where my mother lived because she lived with her sister. I knock on the door. Her brother answers the door. I said, is my mother here? He said, yeah, hold on. She comes downstairs. I look her dead in her face. I said, I don't care what you have to go through. By then, I figured out she let him keep us because she had a baby. The last beating, me and my sister was on our way to the store. We stopped at my friend's house for maybe 2 minutes. My father was driving down the street and seen us coming out of that house. And so we knew we were going to get beat when we got home. We get back home. They take her in the back first, and they're both beating her. I hear her screaming, this is child abuse and things like that. My stepmother never hit me, so when my sister beating was over, I went into the back with my father by myself. But this time I was like, I'm just going to fight back. And so it was worse because now he's fighting me like I'm a man because I was fighting back. After that beating was over, I told my two sisters I'm leaving tomorrow. And I found out the reason why my mother let him keep us for so long. She had a baby and she said if he turned her in to the FBI, she didn't want to leave her baby. So she thought we were safe because we was with our father. So I found her and I knocked on her door and she came downstairs and I told her, I don't care what you have to go through. I'm not going back there. I don't care about the FBI or nobody else. She started crying. She picked the phone up. She called CPS. CPS came out, took all my clothes off, looked at my body. They looked at her and said, what kind of woman would allow a man to keep her child and do this to her? And I felt bad for her. My heart instantly felt bad for her because they didn't know, about the FBI or anything. They just tore into her because they saw my body and they took me to that hospital. And the police, I hated them for so many years. The police looked at me and said, there's no possible way your father done these things. And I don't believe you. So I told the social worker, can you come in here? Because now I'm so angry, I'll spit fire in this man's face. Get him away from me. So the social worker made the police leave. They admitted me. I was in the hospital for 7 days. I had a police officer at the door. No one could visit me that was a male, just in case my father knew where I was. And that's how it ended. I left there. CPS went back to the house. They took my sister out. They asked the other two girls, did they want to leave? They wanted to stay with their mother. They stayed with their mother. But he went to jail for 5 years for beating me like that. The one thing that I remember, oh my God, they woke me up 7 times all through the night asking me to repeat the story over and over again. I think they were trying to make sure the story wasn't going to change. And only thing I remember having that affected my body was stomach ulcers at 13. I had a bunch of stomach ulcers at 13 and I never had a drink in my life. So the doctor said it came from worrying. All those years I was worrying, trying to figure out how to get me and my sister out of that house. And the stomach ulcers formed. But everything else was outer, just a bunch of bruises and cuts, The 7-day stay at the hospital. I had cuts on my arm, open cuts on my leg, my stomach, my back. Because he was just really just fighting me and dragging me all over that back room because I refused to sit down and take another beating. So he did a lot of extra beating on me than he would have if I had sat still and let him beat me with the extension cord, which I wasn't going to do that day. I wasn't having it that day. So, so now you have this extension cord going every which way on your body. They're being pulled and snatched and punched, So everything was beat, not my face, my body. That's why they kept taking my clothes off, looking at my body and asking me what happened over and over again. I don't know why they kept me 7 days, but I believe they wanted to make sure I was safe. That's why they put the police at the door, and they wanted to make sure. They did a lot of testing on my stomach, a lot of testing. My mother caught the bus every day to see me. I know for sure she felt so terribly bad that day. That whole week, she felt bad. Wasn't nothing she could do. I realize that now. It wasn't nothing she could do. She wanted to be with her baby, so I don't hate her now. I hated her then. I hated her for a very long time. I was very disrespectful to her. I wanted to fight her. I wanted to kill her too. Like you left me, but didn't. First off, I'm mad at you because you picked him to be my father. He rapes everybody. It's like, what the hell? It's curses on this family because you, sir, all of your daughters have been raped. So I did not have to go to court or anything. I believe that the social workers, they did their job. He went to jail for 5 years for child abuse and child neglect. And they took care of it for me. I didn't have to go to court not one day. They took the hospital records. I believe they took all the hospital records. They took all the social workers' notes and they used it in court. The day that they went to go get my baby sister, the social workers came back and told me that he passed out and said, please don't take my baby. Y'all can have Kisha. Y'all can have her. Please don't take my baby. So she says, I want to go home to my mother. And his heart was broken. So now you have me, a teenager with all this anger, just out here in the world. Just mad at everybody, including me. Trying to kill my own self 6 times. The last time I really came close to death, scared the hell out of myself. So I said, I'm not going to do that ever again in life. I've been locked up twice for attempted murder. And locked up a lot of times for other violent things that I've done. No one cares about your story. No one cares about what you've been through, what you went through. All they know is they see you as a menace to society. I was a very angry child, and I threatened to kill him a lot of days as an adult woman. And it was just only God that stopped me. I am now 51. I'm a mother. I wrote 6 books about my life. All of them true stories. And I wrote a children's book. Even the children's book is a true story of me in the 3rd grade. My first fight. I am very proud of the woman that I am today. I'm very proud of me today. I titled my first book, I Didn't Kill Anyone Because the World Looks at Me Like I Did. I never murdered anyone. I've been locked up a couple of times for attempted murder, but I've never murdered anyone. I was angry because the world treated me like that. So I decided to work with children. I love children. They are amazing. But they would always come and get me for the kids that was angry, raged out, fighting. I knew how to handle that child because I've been there. And if I hadn't have been through what I've been through, I probably would have acted like everyone else, looking at this child like something is wrong with them. They need to be punished. No, they need to be talked to. You need to know what's going on with them. Stop judging these children like they're horrible people because you don't know anything that's going on at home. And they are afraid to say what's going on in their life because they feel like no one will listen. You need to pay attention to these children and send them to the right people that can help them. Because I don't want them to grow up and almost kill people and end up like I had to.